how do I put this? Bounce back after I let myself down when I got taken off against France. That was probably the low point, real low point. And then
for you or for me?
For me.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome to House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland. Now, Pat McCarry here in the host chair this week. Greg O'Shea and Lindsay Peat, from their Instagram stories over the weekend, they were having the absolute crack. Greg was hanging out with Sexton and, owned Farrell for the coin flip. Lindsay was hanging out with CJ Stander. She promises that she has a lot of Bundy Aki stories as well. They're all going to have to wait now till next Monday. We've got Jason Hennessy in with us again. Kind of hanging it together there, keeping it together after a big weekend there. Yep. you can fill us in on all the details if you want. Then James Downey, an old Hard Yards favourite and a friend of ours as well. So it's great to have you back in as well, James. How are you getting on, lads?
Great. Looking forward to it now.
Yeah.
Great to be back into it. What a weekend for Irish rugby and hopefully World Cup.
Yeah, that's it. It is funny. I was saying a little bit later on, we might even have there's Tommy Bowe was doing some kind of post-match thoughts on something as well, and yeah, it's like now people are. I remember I was even talking to yourself. I think it was before the France game. This is before we even played them, and you had the kind of more confidence than me, and I was saying, I think I'm finally getting on board with this, and I'm starting to get confident, and then there we were again at the weekend at the Aviva, and. Yeah, it's like, actually, of all the things, everybody's really confident now, and all of a sudden it was a shaky game, wasn't it? So really interesting, wasn't it?
Look, it gets down to there's so much on the line there, wasn't there? For the Irish side, and the English lads had nothing to lose. I think they've been hammered in the press over there, so they come out all guns blazing, and they just had to produce. Okay, they didn't play too much rugby, but they were there to spoil a party and try and do a job. And for 60 minutes, they frustrated the hell out of the Irish side, so they did a decent job. Yeah,
what was it? I'd say before we kind of really get stuck into it, not 1 but 2 Grand Slams to talk about. We'll hear a little bit from Nichola Fryday, the Ireland women's captain. They're playing the Six Nations TikTok Women's Six Nations starting this weekend, and we have Andy Farrell, Johnny Sexton. We'll hear from them. A little bit of Tommy Bowe. So jam-packed. But I also kind of just want to start off with talking about you were playing the Legends game then on Paddy's Day as well. So what was that? Who were you playing with? Who were the standout players from both sides? And then we'll get into the post-match stuff then as well, and the beers.
Look, there was some good lads. Sean Cronin was there, Billy Holland, Sean O'Brien played extremely well. Mal O'Kelly was very good. Even the dancing star, Shane Byrne, was his usual self out there. But Keatley was playing too in Keatley, and there's just a younger group of players coming through, which was needed. A nice injection of youth. It was great crack to play. Look for the RFU Charitable Trust as well. So money raised for that, and there was a great crowd there on the Friday night. English boys came over in decent numbers too, and great occasion. It's great to be playing again. Sore bodies, sore heads too. It was good night after. We were well looked after. So it was great night. Great catching up with loads of players.
And what any of the English lads who would have kind of still had it? I suppose
Strettle was there, and he's got a bit of turn of pace about him. Matt Banahan's not long finished too, and. He's a big old unit, so he was against me, so I didn't enjoy that one too much now. But it was good. It was a few hits went in nice and early, so you were straight into it, no holding back, and sore bodies. I'm telling you, the older lads in these 4G pitches were not built for them. And this fast rugby, actually, the ball was in play for 5 minutes, I think it was. And
really?
From the start, from the kickoff, and we threw an intercept, they scored, but literally everyone was looking around each other going, how long's left? Ball's been in play for 5 minutes. This is ridiculous. This cannot maintain for the rest of it. So, look, great occasion though.
Brilliant stuff. And Jason, what about you? It was a busy weekend for you as well, but then also a brilliant weekend, and you were flat out there, covering stuff all weekend as well. But it's I suppose what a time for Irish rugby. We'll kind of really get stuck into the game now in a minute. But what did you make of the whole weekend? What was your kind of overall thoughts on the whole thing? Yeah,
it was good. As James said, we expected England to come out. We expected a bit of a backlash, and we expected they were never going to be as bad as they were against France. That was an anomaly of a game, and they're coming over. They're trying to spoil the party. The pressure is on this Irish team. The fact that we'd never won a Grand Slam in Dublin. So, look, at the end of the day, we didn't put 30, 40, 50 points past them, but we still put on a very good game, and we got the result. And we got a Grand Slam. We can't. I think our expectations are going to be too high at times. Sometimes we don't realise how good we have it at the moment.
Yeah, I was saying like that was the thing. I think we were even talking to. I rammed the door into Ian Keatley in the men's toilets before the game. He was holding a cup of coffee, and so that was my kind of start to the whole day. Like, and hopefully I didn't break any of his ribs or anything like that. But we were talking about it on the lift on the way up at Aviva Stadium, and the big talk was like, are Ireland going to have that fast start that they normally have? Like, are they going to get a try in the first 5 or 10 minutes as well? And it was almost like that didn't happen then as well, and then it got into like everybody was hoping that it wasn't going to be raining as well. If it was clear, you thought Ireland might kind of pull away and have a good game, but I think it was after 20 minutes it was like 6-3 to England, and everybody's looking around each other saying, "Geez, we're in a dogfight." You know, like it was. What was your kind of sense of the mood in the stadium on the evening then as well?
Yeah, look, I think especially that first 15-20, it was just like we were hoping for a fast start. It was just that tense atmosphere. I think that no one wanted to make a mistake. No one wanted to be the first person to have a crack and do something, because England were just going to go, look, we'll play a kicking game. We'll play the way Bortic would have reverted to type and got back to the way Leicester used to play and just kick the leather off it and just use the defence, trust defence. And it's just nervy and edgy, and we were making little unforced errors that we normally don't do. And I think Hugo Keenan made a few errors, and that doesn't happen, it hasn't happened to now. And Tyke Furlong, obviously a little bit fresh back, few balls out the back, went to floor, and everyone was just a little bit like, okay, let's just settle down a little bit. Things that were working before weren't working, so they just went back and played the simple thing. It was a bit of a kicking battle, and but I think Ireland wore them down eventually, wore them down that little bit. But you'd expect those nerves because, as Jason said, there was a lot on it, a lot riding on it. The first home Grand Slam ever, and players are going to be hit with that nervousness. And again, I know I'm looking forward again. They have to be able to deal with this adversity and nerves and be in a big game situation, be favourites, not be playing great, and yet pull out the victory.
Yeah, there was a bit. I remember, like, I think it was Freddie Steward and Hugo Keenan. It was like I was transported back to 2009, and it was just this kicking tennis that was going on for, it felt like 2 minutes of just kicking the ball straight back and forward. Like, and but yeah, the likes that I thought, like Jack Willis played well for England. Toje was really up for it, doing dancing every now and then. It was a turnover one as well. A few of them. Anthony Watson I thought was good as well. But from an Irish point of view, Jason, who kind of like, not everybody was having the perfect game, but who kind of stood up for you then like in that game there on Saturday? Yeah,
I mean, across the board, I think Johnny had a good game. I think Gibson Park played well. I thought Conan was really good when he came off the bench. I thought Mac Hansen had another great game. Look across the pitch, like none of them had their Bard had a great game. To be honest, like a lot of pressure on him, like young kid coming in, like, and if you told him at the start of Six Nations he'd be playing England in Dublin for a Grand Slam and he'd be in the starting lineup, I don't think he would have expected that, because he'd Byrne ahead of me, had Henderson ahead of him. I mean, what age is he now? He's still only 21.
23, I think. 23,
so still quite young. I thought Aki, there was a lot of pressure on Aki over the last few weeks because he had that bad game against Italy, because I know he was out of position at 13 because he's a 12, but like he stood up, had one of his better games.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to look at. Like, if you look at it as well, like we scored 4 tries at the end.
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah.
like we can't complain. You also have to remember as well, like the last time we did this was 2018. Like how many of those players were playing the weekend? This is like first time for Mac Hansen, first time for James Lowe, first time for the likes of Bard. Like remember we'd Mac on the show last year and he was saying he lost, was it 11 finals in a row? And he said, if I lose one more, I said, I'm quitting rugby. So that was essentially like a final the weekend to him. Like, so like that's the first bit of silverware he's ever won. Yeah, for a lot of guys, like, you don't think about it that way. Like I know a lot of those Leinster guys have won silverware, but that's the first thing he's won.
Yeah.
So that's going to stand a huge test to them going forward, especially looking towards the World Cup.
The Bundy one is an interesting one, because I was saying, we were talking about, maybe we'll get onto it with Farrell later, but recency bias. I remember being at the Aviva when Bundy was sent off for the high tackle on Billy Vunipola there a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And I was probably just in the heat of the moment, but I remember tweeting out, like, that could be the end of him now, because like Hume was coming up, Ringrose and Henshaw were there. There's McCluskey always around. I was saying like two red cards in 18 months he got for Ireland. I was like, that could be him done. And I've kind of had to eat that tweet. And I always it gets quoted back to me every now and then, like when he has a good game, and kind of rightfully so. But like the season that he had, like, like he's not getting many minutes at Connacht as well. He's kind of like had the red card earlier on. That was this season as well. It feels like a lifetime ago. Africa, and like, so it hasn't had the easiest of seasons with Connacht as well, but came in again, started on the bench for Ireland, but then finishes as like the big go-to guy for Ireland at the weekend. Just as a centre, what was your take on his performance?
Yeah, no, look, I was impressed with what he did at the weekend, and I take on board the stuff that has gone beforehand. I don't think it's his best season, but it's good to see someone who can just produce when they need to produce in a big game, and we need that. And again, looking down the barrel to say World Cup, it's a squad effort. You're going to need players who can play well multi-positional. Bundy's obviously just going to be in your centres, but he can cover both. Wasn't great against Italy, has been highlighted plenty of times, but very impressive what he did, and especially for Henshaw's score there. Like, he just pulled himself back, threw it in perfectly, and just it looks really easy, but it's a lot of work right off the ball that he brought in there. And I thought he was good defensively against Tuolangi as well, because he was a decent threat for England, and they missed him big time, and I think Bundy did a good job in nullifying what he'd done. But I think his Andy Farrell's camp and environment seems to have paid dividends there, and Bundy's bought into that massively so, and reap rewards for Ireland.
Yeah, are you like, because you'd be kind of have the finger on the pulse a good bit in terms of some of the players, but like, what have you heard about like the Andy Farrell thing? And like, again, like, we're like, this isn't any kind of slight on Joe Schmidt or anything like that, but it was like he had his time, absolutely like set the foundations almost for his success, and then Farrell's kind of kicked on as well. But there seems to be a bit more kind of like relaxed vibe, kind of, again, nothing against Schmidt as well, he had his way of running things as well, but it seems to be a very kind of like, the players are all in the form, like O'Mahony's talking about how great the camp is. Have you heard similar stuff as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And look, you can look at it as well, and you can see Lancaster now and Leinster and everyone talking about how good Leinster are playing, how well they are. You go back to Lancaster's time as England coach, and the England players hated it and said it was too school teacher, headmaster and schoolboy, whatever, and maybe Joe Schmidt was something similar, where it was just regime, this is what we're doing. And Andy Farrell was involved in that, but then he's come in and gone, right, I've seen what works, what doesn't work. I want to put my own print on this. And it's small things. It's getting everyone involved. It's letting players express themselves a lot more. It's even small things like the players have their own coach going to training, and there's no staff on that. They have a separate one so the players can kind of more relax, as opposed to, the coaches are on, put your head down, be quiet. It's not like that at all. It's just, it seems, you can see even after the game at the weekend, the families, everyone out there, it's all encompassing. It's that happy environment that they've created, and it's telling that players are out there expressing themselves. Mac Hansen, I think, been a huge person to benefit from that. Even when there was that kicking tennis going on, he just has a little break and has a little slalom through, and that gets everyone going on their front foot. He goes, I've had enough of this, and we have a crack back, because that's the player he is, rather than no, catch, kick it back. Because that's what you're told to do. It's player instincts, and players have been told to do that. And look, it's great going forward, and players are only very happy, which can only be good.
There was an interesting, I only saw it this morning. I don't know how recent this was. Eddie Jones was given a kind of talk about management and kind of leadership and stuff. And an interesting tweet was he was kind of saying that they used to have arranged player meetings and they'd set up the whole team room, and then none of the coaches would show up, and they'd have hidden cameras, and they'd see what players were going to lead the meeting then, and they would do that with a couple of training sessions as well. The whole thing, the tackle pads would be set up, and the coaches just wouldn't bother showing up. I don't know if Andy Farrell is going to those extremes as well, but this kind of...
I hope not.
I think it certainly helps.
I might try that in my job, just not show up one day and see how everyone else gets on,
I think it certainly helps Nichola Fryday, the fact that he's that little bit younger as well, and that he can kind of relate with the players. And you have to remember as well, is that like he played rugby league and rugby union at a very high level. So he was an unbelievable rugby league player, and then he went to a World Cup with England. So he can relate to these big matches, these big occasions, these big squads, these big personalities. Whereas maybe Joe probably would have been a little bit different to that. He was more of a school teacher. Very good at organising. But Farrell is like, I've been there, and he's his son is England captain as well. Like, so I think it's probably a lot easier to relate to him.
I think as well, like, you've got to give credit to even the small bit Kidney and then Joe as well, just for bringing on that Irish side. And then I think Andy's just taking it to a new level. I think it's that winning mentality initially, but now it's winning and playing well and being able to score tries rather than relying on certain power plays. Even though we did kind of get a power play or a set piece try, at the weekend that went a little bit back to we only had one style of playing kind of, and if we're coming up against a team under Joe and they were able to hold us out, where do we go? It was like, what's our plan B? Here there seems to be loads of plans and different options, and if something's not working, the players can problem solve on the field and are given that autonomy to do that. And it's like, there was one, we'll probably touch on this a little bit more later when we kind of go into like World Cup and kind of who can kind of even push through as well. Like, but there was some great photos going on at the weekend, but there was one I saw of Stuart McCloskey, Bundy Aki, Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw all celebrating with their medals together. And then I was just thinking, Jamie Osborne wasn't in the picture, and you have James Hume, who was like
gonna probably play in that last summer's tour in New Zealand till he got injured as well. Like, so, and you have even like the likes of Stuart Moore then as well, and even Antoine Frisch as well. Like, we're talking about 8 centres there. Like, it's incredible. But the thing I kind of wanted to maybe even let you take the floor on this one is the big one that everyone's kind of talking about. And it was so funny to see some of the post-match interviews. The Irish and English media were both in the same interviews down on the pitch afterwards, and all the Irish people talking about, how far can this Ireland team go? And then the English questions were all about the red cards. So like, for them, it was the story of the game. And again, like, we're kind of celebrating, like, oh yeah, whatever, we're going to win anyway. But what was your take on the whole thing? Like, I'll give you my opinion in a sec. Go on.
Look, it'd be interesting to see what everyone thinks, like, because that's the whole thing about it. And like, you're getting such a divided opinion over this red card. But for me, if I'm looking at it, I think, certainly, I don't think there's not much there that Freddie Steward can do, unfortunately. I mean, he can't just disappear, he can't just stop, he's committed. But at the same time, the outcome of what happened was he elbowed him into the face. So the way I was trying to think about it on the train up this morning, it's like if I'm driving my car and there's an oil slip on the road or there's a water slip or whatever, right? And I put my foot in the brakes and I keep sliding and I go into the back of someone. Well, I didn't do it on purpose, but I still have to deal with the consequences, and I still have to deal with the fact that I just rear-ended someone and I'm in trouble for that, and it's my responsibility. So yes, it was an accident. He didn't mean it, but it was a red card, unfortunately, because he elbowed him clean into the face.
Yeah, what would you think about?
I wouldn't be far off that, because I feel very, very sorry for him. I can understand he has milliseconds to try and change. The natural reaction is to brace. It all comes from Hansen's pass goes forward. Hugo Keenan's body structure changes because he bends forward.
Yeah.
Stewart's coming forward to make the tackle. He's not in the same position. Reaction is to turn. Okay, I still think he's kind of turned in with a hip, but it's your natural action is to protect yourself. It's not an outcome based.
Yeah.
Like, Keenan's gone for the rest of the game. It's not outcome based, but letter of law. Personally, I would have said, okay, if you got a yellow, maybe, but letter of law, yeah, he's got to go, unfortunately, and I can feel for him. I have sympathy for him, but nowadays you can't.
Yeah, I kind of initially would have thought yellow myself. I probably still would kind of be like that as well, but I did see it was so funny to watch, like, the English legends, if you're looking at it on Twitter, like, all Joe Marler, like, he was like ridiculous, utterly bollocks, I think was his one, and then he subtweeted that later in the evening and said, oh, this isn't about rugby union, by the way, like, because he hadn't kind of said what he was giving out about, so he could get away with that one. But yeah, like Will Carling, Matt Dawson, Austin Healy, all kind of fuming about it, and what's he supposed to do, get out, like, disappear. But then I saw another guy on Twitter, like a Manus Lappin, who kind of does a lot of stuff, and he was just saying, yeah, he could have just soaked it. Like, he could have just taken the impact. Like, but he didn't have to turn his elbow into him as well. So, but there is a part where, like, if you're watching it on TV, you're thinking, this is outrageous. But to be at the ground, it's kind of an interesting, because they're just showing slow-mo replays. It looks worse in slow-mo. And each replay, the fans are like, whoa, like, this is a disgrace. Like, and then it's building up and the pressure's there. So, and then, Jacko Piper is all of a sudden going, I've no other option here, as well. So, but it was the change in the game then, wasn't it? It felt like it was game over. It took Ireland another 20 odd minutes to kind of seal the deal, but the game was kind of changed after that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, hugely. Of course, like, because it was a tense game. England had done enough, and even after the red card, you got to give a hell of a lot of credit to the English side, because they really did well out there with 14 men, and they frustrated the Irish. You could see they were time wasting. Lads are going down every break and play. Scrum pens, the scrums are going well. They were starting fights off the ball. They were just trying to make it a bar fight, and put Ireland off their game, and it was pretty effective. And it was, like you mentioned, Ryan Baird there, and he had a huge turnover in that 60 minutes where in our 22 where Baird gets over it. And eventually, from the resulting line-out, we get the crossfield kick and the 5-metre scrum, and we score from that. But it's that turnover that these moments change a game, and it changed the whole outlook. We needed to score just because it was tense, and as I said, England has done an immense job in frustrating us.
What do you think about, like, the likes of, we touched them a little bit earlier on, but like Baird, I remember talking to O'Connell before, like, the 2021 Lions tour, and he was saying he still felt he needed to, put a bit of, like, timber on him, so what you might call it as well. But he was still thinking, like, he could still play blindside as well, couldn't he? But do you think his future's in the second row for Ireland? Like,
I think so. Well, it depends on how things are looking, but it's not like I think it's more and more getting towards that hybrid second row six thing. Like there's a lot of you see, you had your like your Courtney Laws and stuff with England.
Yes,
And I told you does it, and we've got Byrne that does it, and now we've got Baird that does it as well. Like so, that kind of even Henderson does it as well. That kind of hybrid
Coombs too
second
as well.
Coombs as it. So it's becoming more of that as in like in all positions now. Like you can't just be I'm a six, I'm a second row. You like to do it. There's so much competition there now. You need to be a hybrid. So I think it's nice to have him as that hybrid option. But you just mentioned O'Connell there. That's something we didn't kind of bring up as well. All the praise were given to Andy Farrell. I think we should give him some more praise for his backroom team and what he did in terms of the fact that when he first came in, things weren't working, and then he brought in Paul O'Connell and he brought in Mike Catt. And like they've done an incredible job because the difference since O'Connell has come in has been so noticeable.
Yeah, and I think the players, I think James Ryan has had a magnificent season as well, and he's learned a hell of a lot from Paul. He's got, look, everyone knows the history of Paul and what he's done, but people listen to him. He walks in a room and you listen to him, and I think at the game at half time you could see Paul talking to the backs in the cameras in the dressing room, and went up to it, and he was having a conversation with the backs, and I'm sure he was saying, look, they're down to 14, but just kind of control things maybe a little bit before you get too excited and go wide, but like let the lads win it up front initially and then we can go. Maybe he was saying something completely different, but I was interested just to see him having that impact, and everyone you can see is focused on everything that Paul is saying, and like he's got that respect, but he also has his knowledge is unbelievable. It's second to none, and players can only get better by asking questions, learning from him, and be sponges around him and absorb all that information.
Yeah.
I think even on the red card as well, I remember reading a few things kind of going, Ireland were gift wrapped and handed a Grand Slam. Like, kind of like, you do realise like they had to win the other games before that. And the fact that they were leading, like if you look at that, right, we just got the Dan Sheehan try before the red card. It's finally starting to break them down. Then they got the red card. They actually came out then, as you said, firing in the second half because they had to.
Yeah.
I think the red card almost benefited England for the first 20 minutes of the second half. I think we were going to win. I don't think the red card was reflective of the result. I don't think it made a difference. Ireland were going to win that game anyway. To be honest with you, that's my own opinion. Like I think they're kind of saying if they didn't get the red card, that it ruined the game, it ruined the contest. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. There's that kind of thing. Like, and that's the whole thing. Like, let's say, like Ireland could have won that Six Nations the year O'Mahony got sent off against Wales, and Billy Burns had that kind of kick for touch that he didn't make. But like. And that was the end of their kind of the Grand Slam aspirations as well. Like so, but like again, O'Mahony deserved to go as well. And you guys are kind of, I've been, like I would say, like the Steward kind of again, like they're trying to cut that stuff out. Again, it's just a different referee might have a different interpretation on it, but that's what they kind of had to take as well. And but it's still, I think it was like 10-9 coming up to like 60 minutes. O'Mahony went off then. Who was kind of good in defence. I think he'd got like lost the forward a couple of times, like, but overall like a really great championship for O'Mahony. We were talking about there last week. He's kind of in the form of his life again, like but Jack Conan then, like what a difference he kind of made off the bench then as well, and it's like a big turnover for him as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, huge. And I think you look at the pressure that he would have put himself under as well, been the Lions, and then not necessarily a guaranteed starter with Ireland, and you might think that, okay, would you go with Caelan, Josh and Pete to start a lot of the time? But Jack was super off the bench, the impact he made. He just gets his head down, he grasps, and he had a huge impact, and I think the last day people were talking, against Italy it was, I think, and when Caelan was playing six, that he wasn't involved in the game as much, and then when they swapped him around, he was a lot better then, and like that's a lot. Jack's listening to that, going, like, it's a driving force for we need him to be playing. But I think he kind of showed it up to a lot of critics that he had, and again, looking forward, he's just shown that there's versatility there where we can shift around that back row when need be and bring a different game plan. And I was delighted for him, and that offload he had was world class in the corner for Sheehan. So
that was it. Like I suppose when you were watching that, like. When was the moment you kind of finally went, I think we got this, in the bag? Like, was it that moment, the second Sheehan try? Like, I
think it was when Conan had that offload to Sheehan, and you kind of relaxed, and I know they kind of came back into that time, but you're kind of like, okay, even before the herring try, you're kind of like, okay, we're kind of safe here, like, and I don't think you're going to throw it away. And look, to be honest with you, at all times, I never thought Ireland were going to lose that game. I knew it was going to be a tight game, but never once. I don't know, you might disagree with me. Never once did I think we're going to lose that game, to be honest with you.
No, I think at the start I was kind of a little bit nervy like everyone else. And I think the atmosphere in the ground, especially the second that start of the second half of the 20 minutes, you could feel it in the ground. Yeah. Because it was a little bit quieter. England were doing absolutely everything right. We weren't, and I just think it needed one just need to get something to break
Need
it
to
down,
score,
you know, and just
Yeah.
get it over.
Yeah.
And then we could see the players, even when Johnny Sexton, his conversion, hands up in the air, you know, it's just that sense of relief that we're in control here now,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and they have to change what they do, and they weren't going to be able to. Okay, they got a couple of scores, but I think that Ireland were in control of it all the way. I agree with you.
100%, yeah, 100%.
And that was it. Like then it's like, yeah, like, you know, there we go. Like second Grand Slam in 5 years then as well, and like fourth of all time, and then like kind of Rob Herring even getting off the bench and kind of showing again how valuable of a kind of player he is. Like I was talking about Bundy Aki as well. Like what a guy to kind of be able to bring off the bench as well, and that was it. Like the game was sealed then as well. And then like all of a sudden, once the fans knew we were winning, like the last 10-15 minutes was like a party in the stadium. And then whoever knew that like Gala, Freed from Desire, would just become back to be such a kind of a sports classic. Like, because that was like, you can see all the players are loving it as well. It was big during the World Cup as well, wasn't it? So yeah, just brilliant kind of scenes as well. Like, and there was little bits, I suppose, like we saw on TV at the weekend, we saw Pete O'Mahony and Kyle Sinclair arguing about who knows what they're giving out about, but a jersey swap maybe or something like that. Like, but yeah, ITV picked up a little bit of that, but other stuff going on all over the place. I was saying, yeah, you could see Paulie kind of watching all the players, kind of standing on his own, kind of soaking it all in, but letting all the players celebrate and stuff. And like, is there anything you kind of saw, like when you were kind of watching all those kind of celebrations and scenes, of anything that stood out to you, Jason?
Yeah, I disagree with Andy saying that Johnny is the greatest Irish player of all time.
Yeah.
That's one thing I will say. I think he got caught up in the moment a small bit. As good as Johnny was, like I think, like
We'll get onto that. We'll get onto that in the next bit now about that. But yeah.
Fair enough. But I do think it was someone else.
We'll give you the floor for that.
In the celebrations, I know I didn't take much notice of that finish up, because once we won it, like I was actually at a stag the weekend and stuff. So I was like, yeah, once the trophy was lifted, I was like, I'm going straight to the pub. See you later.
There was a big. What was the people who were watching it then on ITV were complaining because they switched. They missed the trophy lift. They switched to ITV4, but the main broadcast then switched because they had to go to Anton Deck's Saturday Night Takeaway.
Okay,
like
fair
so people were flipping the lid, like, you know, like, and saying, "Oh, if it was England, that would never happen" as well. Like, but yeah, like I thought, like you were kind of up in the stands doing stuff for RT, weren't you, with Ian Keatley as well? And anything that you saw that stood out to you?
Look, I think when the players are kind of in their little corner, if you saw that, they were kind of all had their little moment of kind of dancing around. But while that was going on, just had a look, and all the backroom staff got up onto the podium and got a photo together, and just shows what, like, they let the players do their own thing, and again it shows that kind of environment, but also how tight knit the backroom staff is as well. And then of course just families, like everyone's family and kids running around.
Yeah.
And again, it just, for me, it was the whole environment of everything and that he's created. And yeah, look, what an occasion. It was so good to be there in person, because again, first one at home. Yeah,
it was great. Like, that was it. Even there, like, that's the beauty of it. Just kind of the hanging around and kind of watching stuff, and just seeing all the families and stuff, and like. And I actually really liked as well the English kind of players stuck around as well, and
for a while, and that's I've been in that position where you've lost a final, or you've lost something like that, and it's not nice. It's horrible, to be honest with you. And when it goes on for so long, and you're waiting for TV to come back and bring in, you're just hanging around, and fair play to them, you know. And even actually watch when the players were coming up, the Irish players are coming up, and they're going through 1 to 23, and some of the English players would clap at the start and then fade away, but a good few of them clap for 23 players, and that takes a lot as well. So, you know, it's a tough position to be in, and look, you kind of use that as motivation. I'm sure they will kind of going forward. That'll be like, right, you're out there, you know what it feels like. You don't want to be there again. So but that was an observation I picked up. Yeah, and then the other one I kind of spotted as well was like, well, Jack Conan just leapt into the crowd at one stage to his mates and stuff as well, and family. And then I saw Ryan Baird from one side of the pitch. This is after like playing like 80 minutes or whatever, but his mates were all over the far stand, I think maybe the east stand, and he must have heard them, and then he just sprinted, like, you know, at the end of the game, full sprint, and then was jumped into them and all, like, with 10 mates, and they're all celebrating with him as well, and kind of like to have as I said, like, that's to be 23 again, and not to kind of feel like any damage or pain at the the end of like that.
Something to remember there as well is the fact, like, this is our first time doing it at home. So like, I remember being over in Twickenham in 2018 for that, like, and obviously they enjoyed it, but celebrations were a bit muted, because logistically, like, you can only get certain people over to see you over if you're playing over in England or France, but like, everyone was in Dublin, friends, family. It's the first time this ever happened. So like, how cool is it to look out and know that like everyone's there?
Absolutely, and I was there. I was the same as you, Jason. I was there for that 2018, and obviously you're in Twickenham. It was freezing cold that day. I just remember it was absolutely horrendous.
Absolutely.
But then you're like you do win it, and everyone leaves the stadium. Well, most people leave the stadium because they're English, and you expect that. No one left their seats for ages, like for a long time after that. And there's music blaring, as you said, like it was amazing to hear and to be part of it. And even when people were leaving, another thing was that the players were still out in the field. Sometimes you might just walk in, but they were absorbing absolutely every minute of this, and you've got to enjoy these moments because first time ever been at
might
home.
not happen again.
Exactly. It's nearly like there's more people on the pitch then a good while after the final whistle's gone than we're in the stadium, and they were just having their moment and not wanting it to end.
Yeah, there was I think it was probably an hour or hour and a half afterwards. Like we were down in the press conference room then as well, and you had Borthwick and Farrell came through first, and they kind of were giving Ireland, they were very good as well for giving Ireland their dues as well, and kind of like, but yeah, like I think this is the third year in a row England have finished fourth in the Six Nations, fourth or fifth and lost 3 games, like, so strange one for them. Like there'll be a lot of kind of like major kind of stuff that they have like 3 or 4 games to get it right before they go to the World Cup as well. But then Farrell and Johnny Sexton came in as well, and lots of kind of nice stuff talked about, kind of where they've been to, like, and Farrell kind of talking about the kind of again putting it all back on the players' shoulders as well. So we'll hear a little bit about that now, and we'll also hear Jason Andy Farrell's big claim about Johnny Sexton that we'll talk about now. So we'll listen to that now.
I've just been saying to Johnny that there's bigger fish to fry than this, So we're on to the World Cup. No, we're not. We're going to enjoy this next 48 hours at 100%. But we're a good side that's nowhere near reached its potential. I've kept on saying over the last couple of weeks that that's what we're striving to do. Like Johnny said, we'll get a few people back to compete and train hard. And everyone's going to get better in the summer. We get to spend a lot more time together, so we expect our side when we get to the first game of the World Cup to be a lot better than what we are now, and that's the reality.
I think the best thing about him is he hasn't changed one bit from going from assistant to head coach. Still very popular, even with the lads he doesn't pick. We've been able to, how do I put this, bounce back after I let myself down when I got taken off against France. That was probably the low point, real low point. And
for you or for me?
For me. And this is a high point, but I hope it's not the highest point. But very special coach. Like, when you have him, Paul O'Connell and Simon Easterby, Catty, John Fogarty, motivating you during the week, like it's a pretty special dressing room to be part of. So all credit to him really for putting it together, roll on the World Cup. That's what we need to focus on now.
On such an occasion like that, and for Captain Johnny here to finish his Six Nations campaign. He's been saying all week, this is what dreams are made of, It doesn't come around that often, and it's unbelievably fitting that, in my opinion, the best player ever to play for Ireland is able to sign off on a Grand Slam on St Patrick's Day in front of his own crowd. And, there's a lot of stars that have aligned over the course of the last 8 weeks and come together, accumulated into this evening.
Okay, so there we have, Johnny Sexton and Andy Farrell, just talking about the kind of, where Ireland have been, and then even looking forward to the World Cup, which we'll kind of touch on a little bit as well. But Farrell said there, it's like for our, Ireland's best ever player to kind of, win a Grand Slam at home on St. Patrick's Day weekend, it doesn't get any better than this as well. And I don't know, I was actually saying, well, Jason, we'll let you go for first here. Do you have a few other candidates for it?
I think you've kind of cut me in a moment. I think Johnny is certainly up there as one of our greatest players ever. But I still think that mantle belongs to Brian O'Driscoll. And I think there's even an argument that someone like Paul O'Connell might be slightly above him, but he's certainly up there. I mean, look, it's only a comment, a throwaway comment that he's Ireland's best ever player. I don't think he's going to fight us too much about it.
Would he surpass if he won a World Cup?
I think if you win a World Cup, I think you can't. Yeah, you can't deny them. But I think, I don't know. I suppose it's each their own. Like personally, I think Brian Driscoll is probably the greatest centre of all time.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, he's that little bit ahead of everyone else, I think.
Agreed, yeah. No, I'd agree on that point now that O'Driscoll is our greatest ever player. I think, it's everything he did on the field. And not with the strongest sides all the time. Whilst if you'd say now, if you put him in this team, like where would it go or where would it be? Well, okay, Ringrose might have to have something to say about that. But even still, I think just we're so lucky to have these players. And even Johnny the weekend, just Six Nations points as well. And that's his last Six Nations game in the Aviva and bar World Cup warm-ups. We won't be seeing too much of him, so enjoy him while we can. Yeah,
they asked him about that after as well. Like, are you sure you're finished? And he kind of didn't give it like a concrete no, but he was like, and then he thought, he was like, no, I'm done. Like, he kind of was leaving it open there a little bit. But
Mary's, I think, is he not going playing for Mary's?
Yeah. Be interesting to see. I wonder, did Rog drop him a text after he overtook him? I wonder, like, because remember, they're good pals now, like, so surprised no one asked that question.
I've no doubt he did.
No, of course he did. They're good pals now, like, in fairness, like, but I'd say there was a bit of a slagging anyway, back and forth, that he finally overtook him.
It was kind of like, with the best player stuff, I was kind of saying, like, you almost have to park the amateur era, like, and say it's unfair almost to kind of compare those type of players back then. Like, so I would kind of say, professionally, I'd probably say, again, I'd still probably put O'Driscoll up there, and then maybe Sexton in between him and O'Connell, like, for me. But then even lads like there who, now this guy's got a long, good few like miles left in the clock as well, like Tyke Furlong as well. I'd be almost certain to put him up there, and then Conor Murray as well. And it was great to see the two of them having a little trophy lift together and stuff like that. And even for for a lot of, like, even those two boys, they've had like not easy seasons, like, in terms of like and the fact that they keep coming back and producing the goods all the time says something about them as well. Like, so, we're talking about a lot of like players here who'll go down, even like they're almost like living legends at the moment because of the stuff they're achieving as well. But there's that big debate now as well. Like, you probably, is this the best Ireland team ever? Like, and let's maybe even just talk about the professional era again. Would they be like, or do they have to win a World Cup to kind of like put them over the top there?
Winning a World Cup would be
or semi-final.
Well, that's what if you win a World Cup, you have to. It's something we've never done. We're now like the Belgian football team, our golden generation at the moment, and it's tough. It'll be tough. I just think it's gonna be World Cup based if they take that mantle, in my opinion, on that. Like, because they've done the Grand Slam and they've done it the hard way as well with plenty of adversity, but it's all unfortunately coming down to a World Cup.
It's a horrible thing to say, isn't it? Like, but it's true, because like we've won Grand Slams before, we've won Six Nations. I know they made history when they went over and they beat New Zealand for the first time. But like, if you go away, so we look at the last year, Test series down New Zealand, making history. You beat the current world champions of Africa in Dublin. You've won a Grand Slam. But if you go to the World Cup now and you get knocked out of the quarter final, it's all forgotten about.
Yeah, and again, you're saying professional era, it's professional sport, and it's results-based business. There's no point in being, which we were 4 years ago, nearly the best side outside of the World Cup, or the form team going into it, and doesn't count for anything.
I remember, like, in 2019 then, when Ireland kind of had that tough year after, that amazing 2018 they had, but it was almost like the World Cup favourites, like hot potato. Nobody wanted it in 2019, and it was like, God, no, you're. So it's interesting to pick up Fabien Galtier speaking at the weekend after France beat Wales, and he was saying, we're the team to beat in this World Cup. Like, and I was saying, I actually probably wouldn't argue with that too much. I'd say, still in a weird way, like, France favourites for me for the World Cup.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think timing wise as well, you look at when we played France early in the tournament. I think as the tournament's gone on, France have gotten so good, they are ruthless. It's a World Cup at home. Just think if the French crowd get behind them, that they're going to be a juggernaut. As the momentum goes for them, once they keep going, they'll be very tough to stop. I wouldn't argue with that one bit. I know we're number one. I'll be very confident in our abilities, but I'd nearly be going, I'd take New Zealand rather than France in a quarter.
I think, if Ireland and France played each other 10 times over the next few months, it could be 5-5. But the fact that it's on in France, do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. We played them in Dublin, and I think if France if we had France in the quarterfinal of a World Cup in Dublin, like, I think we win that game.
Small percentages, and at that level, it's the small little things, and it could be that just knocks it over the line. But I think France.
I'm gonna on the kind of World Cup team. I'm gonna give you a little exercise. Rather than get you to name an entire World Cup squad, I'm going to name out the players that I put down who I think are locks, like guaranteed. Again, like injuries provided, like, but I'll give you the names that this is obviously Stephen at the top of my head last night. I have Porter, Healy, Sheehan, Callagher, Furlong, Beelum, Byrne, James Ryan, Baird, O'Mahony, Van der Fleer, Conan, Doris, Gibson Park, Murray, Casey, Sexton, Ross Byrne, Lowe, Hansen, Henshaw, Aki, Ringrose, and Keenan. And that's 25. To me, guaranteed. And then I have Henderson and Herring probably going to go as well. So saying that probably only leaves 5 or 6 spots then, which is crazy to think about. But is there anybody else you kind of think that I might have missed off that list who kind of...
I think there's someone in there that shouldn't be there out of only one person. I don't think Ross Byrne is guaranteed to be in there with the way the 10th situation is now. I think he's definitely showed that he's a good option to have there, but I do think there's more left in Joey and there's more left in Jack Crowley, and depending on how the season goes.
Yeah, I think they have a lot to say in it as well. Again, this is when, especially when you're coming down to the last couple of players, you're looking at kind of versatility. You're looking at players who can cover across, because pre-World Cup last time we tried Robbie Henshaw playing fullback and that didn't work. And then I'm sure Jimmy O'Brien, versatile player, Jamie Osborne can slot in around. You have different players who can be versatile. Joey can obviously cover in. Jack Crowley didn't really get a look at him, but I'm sure they see him in camp every day. They see what he can do in that environment. There's a lot of rugby to be played, and also you've got to look most years. Someone always falls down. You're always going to lose 1 or 2 players along the way, and that's the nature of it. And you've just got to get on with it. And I think that's going to have an impact as well. And someone big will probably potentially lose out. Hopefully there's not too much rugby now, because it's going to be a big long pre-season for them. But
those extra 2 players I think really help as well, because it was 31 the last time and now you have 33, and you saw a lot of coaches what they did is they went with 2 10s or 2 9s. Now you can bring your 3 9s and your 3 10s guaranteed, and 2 players makes an awful difference. It really does, because you're just that little bit extra cover and kind of going, this guy doesn't have to double up here, this fella doesn't have to double up, and maybe you can go, I can bring a specialist 12 or I can bring a specialist 13 because I have an extra 2 spots to play around with.
That was the thing with 2019, Joey Carberry as third scrum half if we needed him.
That's right, you don't have to do that this time,
there, so it's kind of mad there. But it's interesting to kind of see there, and again, probably Tom O'Toole. Again, you're going to have definitely instead of a Porter who can cover both sides, you might have 3 specialists now as well. So, there's probably only 6-7 spots up for grabs in a way, and then you hope none of the big boys really get too injured at all or out for too long.
I think it was interesting as well. We did. I was in commentary. I heard it. I think we over the course of 6 Nations, he played. Was it 31 or 32 players?
31, I think.
So he essentially played an entire World Cup squad over that period, that 5 games, 6 Nations. Which I don't think that's something we would normally do.
Yeah.
No, but that's also, it's reflective of the 6 Nations that happened and the injuries, the knock-on effects of people falling over, someone stepping in, everyone having to step up. And that's what I think. I'm happy that these things happen, especially against Scotland, because that will happen in a World Cup, because it's tense. You've got people fall over. You don't have, you have 4 weeks to recover. You don't have 4 weeks to recover. You have less than a week. And if you're not there, next person on the line, you're up, and you can't risk lads. And I think that's what he's gotten to. You can't risk players. You're gone. Next person's in, which is what we want.
That new ruling, the way they've done it as well, the way they've spread it out, they've added an extra another week or 10 days onto the World Cup, so that there has to be, is it something like 7 days between each match? Whereas you were playing games the last time out after 2 or 3 days, and that's just crazy. Of all sports, rugby, you can't be playing rugby.
But even look at even the last weekend, Ireland had a 6-day turnaround. We're getting into football territory of 6-day turnaround, but
6 days in football is one thing, 6 days in rugby.
Yeah, exactly. The bodies is okay, we can't do too much in a training park. I know it's only 1 day, but it's 24 hours in rugby is massive, because it's okay, well, we can't do too much because you're still recovering on a Wednesday. We'll do some walkthroughs. It's kind of okay, momentum has gotten us to this far. We can't do too much now, and everyone knows what they're doing at this stage.
It'll definitely make for a better World Cup. They've learned their lesson, an extra 2 players and a bit more longer of a break, so that we want to see high level test matches and not just guys playing non-stop getting injured, and not we don't want a situation
of last man standing whose squad survives.
Exactly. Like us in
4 lads went
2015.
It's like us in 2015, where it's literally just whatever we've left, throw onto the pitch and see what happens. Do you know what I mean? So
7 weeks in France, you're going to have a full-on French accent there by the time you get back from that later on this year. I want to talk again, because 2023 World Cup, we're a good space here, but I want to get really into 2027 World Cup here now. Just touching on another Grand Slam that was won there at the weekend, and that's Richie Murphy now, like second year in a row he's won a Grand Slam with the under-20s, having kind of stepped out of his, well, not comfort zone, but like taking on that kind of head coach kind of mantle then as well, after coming away from, you know, bits of, you know, kicking and attack coaching with Ireland and a bit of stuff with Leinster. So he's done an incredible job as well. But you were even saying before we started recording as well that the next batch from next year could be even better again. Like, so it's like these lads, it's becoming the norm now, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it is, and I guess you've got to thank the kind of senior side, because these kids look up and see Ireland winning things, winning Six Nations, winning tournaments, and these could be a product of seeing 2009 and they go, yeah, I'm going to take up rugby, and on the back of that, players come through, and that's success breeds success. And these younger players are coming through, and yeah, it's a tough job. Richie's done an amazing job. As you say, never done 2 Grand Slams in a bounce, and we've never had a Six Nations senior and 20s same year. Yeah, hats off to them. Quality side, and they play great rugby as well, which is always good to see. And yeah, I think some of the players next year, there's a few boys eligible again next year, and some players coming out of school and first year in NTS and academies and stuff that are going to be interesting to see how they go again next year. But it's so good for Irish rugby, you know. It's flying, and yeah, long may that last. That these young players keep coming through.
There is talk now of it's almost in a weird way of like, even when we were talking to like David Nusafora earlier on this season, when we were at the Aviva and he was doing something, it's like everyone's now saying, where can we get games for these lads as well? Now it's like maybe more this kind of like emerging Ireland type of stuff, but you need to give these lads games, because I see even then Connacht have they signed Andrew Smith, the Sevens player, who's Leinster as well, but they've also signed Sean O'Brien, another kind of Leinster young lad, and at least spreading it out a little bit across the provinces. Connacht were already looking for their fans, not Connacht themselves, maybe Connacht themselves as well, but they're looking for Sam Prendergast, saying he'll come to us, he'll get minutes with us. But I can't imagine Leinster are going to let go of him. He looks like a real talent, doesn't he, Jason?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, I don't see him getting rid of him. But like, to be honest with you, like, I know they've got Ross and Harry there, but Johnny's gone soon. Remember that? Like, so that means Ross going to have to step up.
Frawley.
And they've got Frawley as well, who's 10, 12, 15. So like, I think he will get minutes there, because Johnny will be gone. And like, I think that he's a special talent. He's only, what is he? Is he 18 or 19? Is he 19, is he?
19.
He's a special talent. He's going places, like, he just stands out above the rest, like Crowley did last year. So, but like, I think it was interesting as well to see, they were talking about the return of the Junior World Cup is back this summer. So they're standing down in South Africa. So that was off for the last couple of years because of COVID. But if we look back, like before that, who dominated that for a good few years was France. And before that, France were on the down, and France were terrible for years. Yeah. Then their junior side started doing really well, and that certain Antoine Dupont and a few other players popped up in these junior sides, and now they're only starting to benefit from that in the last, we'd say, 18 months, 2 years, these guys coming through. So like, to have that backbone of an unbelievable young side, it will stand the test of time.
And then the argument there again is it that the French, they're happy to play the players and bring them through and play them for the national side, you know? Yeah. Are we still, he needs to be of a certain age before we bring him up, you know? While I'm kind of throwing it out there, I don't know is the answer. Like, because you bring up Crowley, you've seen how well Crowley's done. Yeah. He's brought him in, but I still don't think as a nation we're like, okay, he's 18. He's like okay, Australia do it very differently. They come out, right, in you go. Boom, yeah. You're 19, you're 20, bang, play, but then they can break down, and England do it as well to a certain degree. I still don't think we're the greatest to kind of go.
It's changing though. If you notice,
I think they
look at Munster this year. Like, as Munster before, we had this conversation loads of times, would never be playing young guys. And you've seen a Dogbo at 19. You've seen Ruan Quinn has played this year, and he's played against Sebra, and like, this is first years coming off the back of Senior Cup, and he played for Munster. And years ago, like under Van Graan, that wouldn't happen.
No, you do 2 years from academy, and you do 2 years, a few years.
So we're getting better at it, definitely.
Yeah, no, okay, I agree with that one, I suppose. But just nationally, I just think like some boys need to be brought up, need to be given that opportunity.
Yeah,
you're right.
And if that's a sacrifice for a senior player who's not going to be happy, I just think for the benefit of Irish rugby going forward as well, once they're involved in the environment and get comfortable, it can only be good.
Yeah.
That's why I think you do need those emerging games or an A team, because there's so many good players across, and we only have 4 provinces, like whereas France, they've got 14 bloody teams. In England, they've got 12 professional teams. We've only got 4 provinces. We don't want them to leave and go somewhere else, because we want to keep them here so that we can mind them and manage them. And like, if you leave, you're not eligible for Ireland. Well, technically, I know it's the unwritten rule.
Yeah.
But we do want to keep them here. So if we do want to keep them here, give them more opportunities to play and find tours from the summer or A games. Like we used to have the Ireland Day, which was on a Friday.
Yeah.
There was an Ireland A game, then there was what's called on Saturday. But then again, we're looking at, do we have is it possible to do that and put that on? Because there's so much rugby on at the moment, so it's difficult.
It's like even there, like do you go and play like teams in France as well, or like it's there was talk, like one of the questions came and like it might seem far fetched, but it was like, do we use London Irish now? It was like, yeah, like can you use London Irish as kind of like go get a bit of playing opportunity over here in the Premiership? Would London Irish love something like that? Like a batch of like, here's 5 Irish players. I know Rugby Canada used to do it. They'd send like some of their top young players over to a couple of teams over in Wales to get game time as well. This is a little bit higher level than that, like, but do you really lean into the Irishness of London Irish? Like, back
to the old fifth province debate. I throw that one out there. But I do think that I agree with you. They need game time, Yeah. You don't want to get stagnant, especially because they're producing so many players, and it's not as if the players who are ahead of them are 29, 30, 31 and they're older. They're not. They're 23, they're 24. These 20-year-olds, it's like, okay, he's going to retire in a year or two. They're not. The age profile is quite young, so game time is essential for these guys who are just below the surface, and there's top quality players, international players that aren't playing that probably should be playing.
Think about it, like if your dream is to be a professional player, right? Like people forget, and before it was different. We've at least changed it so that you can move around the provinces. Before you couldn't. But like just because you don't make it, like in Ireland, like Leinster are probably one of the best clubs in the world. You've got Munster, Connacht, Ulster, massive clubs. Ireland winning Grand Slams at senior and under 20s level. You can go over and have an incredible career. I mean, you played in England for a long time. You were one of the best players in the Premiership. I mean, you can go over and have a very successful career, or you can sit on the bench and not play and your career might disappear. Or you can go off to England or France and be a professional player for the rest of your life on good money. What would you do, like, if you're not getting the minutes here? You're just going to go, like, aren't you?
Well, like my mindset on it is that, okay, I had a certain Darcy and O'Driscoll ahead of me, so I kind of better go. But I think it's a case by case basis. I do think that when you finish and you retire and you kind of sit back and go, you look back in your career, you can kind of say, was I happy with what I did? And like personally, absolutely. I could have potentially stayed where I was, but like
worked out well for you.
Exactly. And it doesn't always work out like that as well. There's the other side of it where players go away and it just doesn't work, and that's so be it. But at least you experience it as well. I think sometimes you're caught in a bubble here, and I think if you go outside, you look back in. I think for Rod, say, and his coaching, he was in that bubble, and then he's going to experience so many different things that him and that kind of 360-degree view of his coaching, he can go, all these different experiences make me a better coach. So same with, for me personally, it was all these experiences made me a better player and helped me in what I'm doing now. So it's good for players, I think, to have a look. But everyone wants to play for Ireland, and you said it there, if you're going to be out of the country, it's...
So if you have the choice of play rugby or not play rugby, you're going to play rugby.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But it's tough for that young lad to go, if I do this, I will not play for it. It's hard. And it's nearly like, when did they decide it? Did they decide at 22? Did they decide it when, they're not getting picked by 4 or 5 other lads? They've got to make a decision and go, do you know what? I'm going to go here. And it's for Irish lads who live at home and are well looked after, like, the RFU look after the players very well, to go into a different environment. It can be difficult, and some players are just going, comfort zone, I'll stay where I am. And
Duncan Casey was on about that recently. Like, I know Duncan well, and he was saying that like when his dander was up, when he was at his peak, he was starting in the Heineken Cup, right? But he knew he was never getting near the Ireland squad. But he still stuck around because he wanted to play for Munster, and it was But then he went to Grenoble for like a year towards the end, like, and he was like, I really wish I did it sooner. I should have went when I could have got that big contract and I went over. And he ended up like having to finish up prematurely, like and like he just kind of wish he took that leap.
A little bit
earlier. And I'm sure a lot of guys will think that.
Yeah, a lot of guys will, like, and I think it's very much an Irishness that, as I say, it's like we're so territorial in our provinces and where we're from, especially down in Munster, where it's like, everyone just wants to grow up, wants to play in the red, and it's like, I have an opportunity not to play in the red. Why would I do something like that? And
so there's so many spots. In Munster,
exactly. But players still don't want to let go of that, and they go, well, what happens if he's gone, or if he goes in the World Cup? There's game time there, and I'll play 5 times a year, and
it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It really is.
I suppose just on the other games, I suppose I might even just leave it to you. Like if anything jumped out from those other games, just to kind of, like Scotland beat Italy 26-14. They needed, like Kinghorn got a hat trick for them, but they still needed to get a try in the last minute just to kind of seal that game. And then France beat Wales, like I think it was like 41-28. So like I think like Penno was brilliant for me again in that, and then Jonathan Downey went, like he makes such a difference for them, I thought, as well. But did anything jump out from those two games over the weekend for you? Like,
not massively from my end of things. I think like it's a pity you fell for that Italian side, you know.
Yeah,
I really did, because they produced some scintillating rugby over the Six Nations, and I think missing Capuzzo as well at the back. He's such an attacking threat, but they're close, you know. We've been here loads of times and said they're close, but they play a great brand of rugby. Sometimes I think they need to not maybe run it from behind their sticks as much. Sometimes exit. You can do that, but look, you wouldn't want to stop them doing what they're doing at the moment, because they have been very entertaining. Wales, I think, are in a bit of trouble. I think they're lucky that they have this pre-World Cup pre-season of 2 to 3 months, because they'll need it, I think, you know. And Scotland, just...
I think Scotland have got the one thing to take from that game. I think Scotland got a bit of a wake-up call, kind of that they kind of been brought back down again, like where it happens to them every year, like, and they think that they're that little bit better than they are. I think they kind of saw that again the weekend, like that they're not as good as they thought they are, even though they're improved. It's the same way as you said, Italy are improved, but I put it this way, like I wouldn't fear Scotland at the World Cup, to be honest with you. Like, whereas people were saying there a couple of weeks ago, like, oh, Scotland could do a Grand Slam. They're way off the mark. Way off the mark.
It's like who was it? Van der Merwe, he scored a lovely try, didn't he, as well, from there?
Finish,
but like, I think there's even talk, and again, a couple of weeks ago it might have seemed crazy, and I've seen a few reports in Scotland saying, how come Gregor Townsend hasn't been given a contract extension? And now you look at it again, and like when the championship's over, you're like, the SRU were probably doing the right thing. They're waiting until the World Cup and saying, do well at that and we'll give you a contract. Like why sign them up for another 2 or 3 years if they go and get knocked out in the pool stage? And hope to God this doesn't get clipped up now in 6 months' time.
Maybe New Zealand needs to kind of wait till post World Cup before they announce it, because that seems to have caused all this havoc there. And even Foster saying that coaches had 2-day meetings, management meetings behind closed doors. It's bizarre, isn't it?
They're like Schmidt releasing statements saying I'm not taking it as well.
It's a weird situation for New Zealand of all countries. Like, I mean, there's something going on there. Like, I mean, they're a bit of cop on, really, isn't it? Like,
it's a distraction they don't need. Hopefully it'll benefit us, you know.
Yeah, it must be taken after the Welsh Rugby Union the way they're going at this stage. Like,
we might throw out a couple of like a team in the tournament awards in a couple of seconds. I'll just throw you to a quick clip here that Tommy Bowe was chatting after the game as well, and he was just kind of talking about the World Cup and kind of owning it as well, and saying Ireland have all the tools as well. So we'll play that now.
I think that they're so process focused that it doesn't matter what players that they lose, whoever steps into the fold, they just seem to be able to stick on task. And even England, even Scotland last weekend were able to, you know, push them and have them on edge, and maybe a lot of people would have questioned, do they still have it? But they just find a way to grind out a performance and really pull away in the end of the game. I think they've given themselves exactly the best opportunity they can of winning it. I mean, if you want to tick boxes and tick challenges to try and set yourself up for it, as I said, to beat New Zealand in New Zealand soil, to beat South Africa, to beat Australia, to win every game in the Six Nations, I mean, you can't get any better preparation. So yes, the Six Nations is the next thing around the corner, and yeah, why not? I mean, do we dare to dream?
Okay, right. The official awards are going to be coming out now. Six Nations, like, they've, fair play to them, they've got a good kind of website now, and it's like a nice little team in the tournament. You can pick yourself. I picked it myself. I said I was going to share it, and I accidentally, no offense to him, but I picked Jack Conan ahead of Caelan Dara. So I said I'll have another go at this now tomorrow. Like, but yeah, it's anyone wants to try that, they can give it a go as well. But all these kind of awards are going to get like announced soon enough as well. Like, but maybe we'll just start off with like our own player of the tournament. Who do we all kind of think stood out for us? Doesn't have to be necessarily Irish, although it may well be. Like,
for me, it's Dupont. He's
really,
he's just absolutely unplayable sometimes. Everything he does, I think we look at, say, a Sexton and say, if we lost a Tiger or a Sexton or something like that.
Yeah.
I think if France lost to Dupont, that it would have serious impacts on France's chances, because you look how many minutes he plays. Like, can you tell me who the second and third choice French scrum halves are? Like, it's
I know Luku, that's about it. I don't tell you who number 3 is. Yeah,
That's
not good.
They just don't get enough minutes, you know, because he's so pivotal, and everything he does, every time he touches the ball, he's dangerous, and he's metronomical in scoring tries too, and just for me, he's just that player who sticks out every week, and he's in that pivotal position too. So it's kind of easier for him to control things.
That's it. What would you say, Jason, then, if you're picking?
It's kind of a toss-up. Like, I think Doris has been absolutely brilliant. But for me, 2 man of the match awards, and how many tries he got, and just how important he was to Ireland, was Mac Hansen. Like, he's come in now like as an extra playmaker off the wing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and if you look at him, like, and he's just so instrumental to our attacking play that and like, as I said, like, this is his first time winning something big. Like, you know, I mean, it's a Six Nations, but I think he was probably one of our most important players throughout it. Like, and just an incredible talent.
Yeah, I was going to pick Mac Hansen as well. Like, I thought maybe the Scotland game really showed it up more as like the up and under, where I think even Sexton was admonishing himself for, like, there was just a big up and under, and not only was he going to win it in the Scottish 22, he was going to get an offload as well. And Sexton was giving out saying, like, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, I didn't, like, not only is he's thinking ahead, after I win this, I'm going to flip it out here. Like, and Sexton was saying he was going in for the clear out and didn't spot the pass coming. Like, so yeah, he just put it on his shoulders, and he did it again at the weekend. Like, kick tennis going back and forth. He's like, no, fuck this. I'm going to drew his man in, then stepped him, and then kind of made 20-30 meters as well. Like, I thought him, and then Doris would be up there as well, and then again, like, for me, I was just that's what we talked about, a couple of errors he made. Hugo Keenan, I always think he's like an 8 or a 9 or 10 out of every week or something like that. Like, incredible.
He makes no mistakes, and I can still remember when his Rob Kearney finishing up, and who's going to replace him, and Jordan had a couple of chances, and they were still moving players around, and then all of a sudden this kid comes out of nowhere, and you're like, kind of, not a Rob who, but like, it's kind of like, okay, we've moved on. Forget about that. You know, same with Rob and Gervin Dempsey. It's like, oh, who's going to replace Gerv? Because he was he's so solid, beats the defender, first defender, absolutely every time. And he's so consistent under that high ball. And when he's not there, you're like, oh. But then I do think that Jimmy O'Brien is an able deputy.
I saw something there. No one has played more minutes under Andy Farrell than Hugo Keenan.
Oh wow, it's
incredible since he's come in. Like, no one has played more minutes like that.
That's the trust.
And he came out, as in, like, before Andy Farrell came in, like, he hadn't even played for Ireland. That's how good he's been. Like, to come and land on your feet like that it's at that level. It's ridiculous.
I'm waiting for him to kind of, like, because he's just so good as well, to get that strut about him, and kind of, but he's still just this kind of, like, every time you talk to him, he almost, like, you wouldn't think of him talking to him that he's this world-class fullback as well, like, just kind of still this kind of like, like, I'm just going to get there and playing. It just seems so placid as well, like, as a kind of character, like, so they'd be kind of like, that's a good tree, like, and Dupont again, like, it's he's always in the mix, but then, like, look at him, like, box kicking off either foot down.
Him against England was absolutely ridiculous. Like, just another level.
I was going to say then, like, let's say a breakthrough success, somebody who might have kicked on or kind of really pushed through, like many of the countries again during the Six Nations.
I think for us, someone who really stood out for me was Tom O'Toole, because I thought, even like before that, I thought Beelum was brilliant. I thought Beelum was brilliant. You're kind of like, because everyone, you get so worried just because Tadhg Furlong is the best tight end in the world by a distance. And then Beelum was incredible. But then when Beelum went down, Tom O'Toole was incredible. It's like, geez, we have 3 good, real solid tight heads now, whereas years ago, like, we never had that. Like, most teams barely have 1 good tight head. It's one of the trickiest positions in the world to have some depth there. Like, so that's 2 players that stood up for me.
God, I don't know. It's tough. I think I love seeing Dan Sheehan play. I just think everything he brings to it. He's such an exciting player who's kicked on again. That's an interesting one about the tight head props. I think it's massively needed because of our over-reliance nearly on Tadhg, that Finlay got to play not just, say, against Italy, Scotland got injured, but when he gets injured, you want him to play against bigger nations and produce and play long minutes, and he did. And he did extremely well. So, don't know, like, these players, Doris again, but not breakthrough, I suppose, but for Irish, maybe Sheehan,
For me, like, I was like, well, again, like, to have Beelum, and then for him to go down with that injury, and hopefully he's not out for too long, and then O'Toole, it was great. But I thought Demortier, the French left winger, like
Yes.
Sorry,
I thought,
I had the Irish hat on there. Sorry,
yeah,
but no, you're
I
right.
thought he was incredible, especially even that game against us in Dublin as well. Like him and Penno just ripped us to shreds in that game, and nobody could kind of lay a finger on them. And I was picking again. We might even get onto this as well, but like my team in the tournament, and it was like I put him ahead of Van der Merwe, who was brilliant for Scotland as well. Like I thought he was that good, so one to look out for. And then I suppose even I was saying like maybe like picking a team in the tournament might get too kind of. You know, we could be here for another 30 or 40 minutes, and Paul and Chris might want to go get some lunch, and they'll probably be screaming yes in the background as well. But maybe just Irish guys that you kind of think you'd be even, let's say, surprised if they weren't in the Six Nations team in the tournament.
Well, it's tough without having to go through name. I'm going, you'd have Sheehan in my mind anyway. James Ryan was absolutely immense in that one. I'd have Doris in there. I'd have Johnny. I would have Mac.
Hugo as well, probably. I don't know, some good fullbacks. Maybe Ramos. Actually, Ramos is a tough one.
Yeah, Ramos was with his kicking as well. You know, I think I would have gone Ramos in 15, but 5 or 6 at least. There were some interesting selections I saw in the papers today. Across the water, so.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I'm going to be right out of here after this.
The only one we're missing there, I think, is I agree with all the ones you were there, plus Porter, I'd say as well.
Yeah.
I'd have Porter in there as well, which is mad. Like it would be crazy if there isn't at least, especially when you've won a Grand Slam in the way with the manner we've won it. You've got to have 7 or 8 Irish players.
But then you look at the like you're probably dismissing. I'd have two Piloto in the centre. That would be my only Scot probably, you know, and. You get an Italian in there, and Caputo was the one I was kind of thinking about, but he didn't play
Negri
enough.
maybe in the back row or something like
it
that.
was very good, But then again, if you're putting him in, someone's
going to lose out.
Yeah.
You can't put 15 Irish players in. I know we probably would.
And it's funny when you think about it, isn't it? Yeah, like even then, like we haven't mentioned, but he was brilliant again, Van der Fleer as well. Like you kind of like, but. Like so, there you could.
We just kind of used him. We don't even take any notice of him anymore. He just shows up every week, and he's annoying every week, no matter what.
Yeah, like what was he doing extra at the weekend?
Exactly.
Was he not taking any line-out throws or anything at the weekend, or taking kicks? Like, so that's perfect. So what we'll do then is then like even. We go from one Six Nations and doing 26 Nations into the Women's Six Nations, then kicks off this weekend. Ireland are against Wales, and so again, like that's such a funny one. It's like we were talking about Ireland being the standard bearers in the men's. It's England really, and then France. And there's going to be, I think they're even talking about maybe getting a crowd of 30 or 40,000 into Twickenham for an England home game as well, which should be brilliant as well. Like, but Ireland will be kind of fighting for that third place spot. And then this is when the 15s thing kicks off. So if you finish in the top 3, you qualify for that upper tier of, the kind of going to play the likes of New Zealand and stuff like that as well. So a lot kind of riding on it as well. But we were at the Six Nations launch there last week. Alex Roberts was over in London, and he spoke to Nichola Fryday about that. So here's a little bit from her.
What made you fall in love with the sport initially?
So it was definitely my local club in Tullamore that made me fall in love. I came to the sport, I suppose, kind of late. So I was 19 when I started. I was in university, and I just was at home one summer and said I'd give rugby a go, and I went in, and the girls in the rugby club were brilliant, and they made like their friendship and their like openness and warmness was definitely what drew me to the club environment, and I fell in love with the sport from there then.
The game of rugby, particularly the women's game, has grown immensely, as you can tell by events like today and the attendance here. But can you tell us about some of the obstacles that you've maybe had to overcome to continue playing the sport?
Yeah, I think definitely like it's in the last few years it's getting that balance between work life and wanting to play and represent your national country, and you've seen the huge steps that each nation has taken to make that easier for each of the players, and I think it's been great and it's been really positive.
This week Canterbury launched the new Island kit with the navy shorts to allay period anxieties that the original white shorts may have brought about. As a member of the Island team, how's that made you feel?
Yeah, it's really positive. Look, as a female athlete, I don't think you should have to have that as a concern when you step out onto the pitch. You have so many other things that you need to worry about, your performance and all that, and I think an anxiety or a concern about that shouldn't be one of them. So for such a simple change, it definitely relieves a lot of like concern for players, and I think it's brilliant.
And in terms of Irish sport generally, you've got Ireland's football team
yeah, it's been great. Like, I think Irish sport has been like showcased at another level. Like, we have some outstanding athletes in the country, and I think it's just great that such a small little island is producing such top quality athletes and teams, and it's brilliant to see.
And Katie Taylor coming back, boxing as well,
Yeah.
to Ireland, to fighting Chantal Cameron, but then hopefully in Australia as well. Where does Katie Taylor stand in your opinion as like one of the greatest Irish athletes ever?
She's one of like the all-time great female athletes of Ireland, without a doubt. Like, her name is known in every household in Ireland, and rightly so, because she's achieved so much, and to get her to come back and fight in Ireland it's brilliant, and I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for her, because it's just nice being able to get to your home venue to to perform. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's Nichola Fryday there. So good luck to Ireland women playing at the weekend. And they've those, they're down in Musgrave Park, I think, this year as well, aren't they? So a couple of home games there. Hopefully they can sell that out as well. And they actually spoke really well about just kind of heroes and stuff like that. And they were kind of, Nichola and always passed on her best to the Ireland women's team as well. And I saw Vera Bowe was the Grand Marshal there in the St. Patrick's Parade as well. Like, so
Excellent.
a lot of great stuff going on. And hopefully the Irish women can kind of get a couple of good results in that championship. So just kind of, before we wrap up, our Never Stop Competing moment of the week with Bank of Ireland. I mentioned them earlier again. I wanted to kind of give it to Conor Murray and Tadhg Furlong again, because I said, like, Furlong didn't play since the start of December, came in the middle of the Six Nations, and just brilliant again. And it's like, we talk about Josh van der Fleer, we kind of take Furlong for granted as well, I think sometimes, don't we? And then Conor Murray, like, to go through what he did there with his father, like, and to be kind of like having to, rush back home and kind of be with the family and then come back up. And
even before that, people were saying he might not be in the squad because he got dropped by Munster.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? Like, and he came in and played a pivotal role. So, come here, look. Form as temporary, class as permanent. Like, he's still one of the best nines out there.
Yeah, definitely. So listen, that's brilliant stuff. Just want to say thanks very much for myself. James, great having you back in with us as well. Jason, you kind of held it together there now after a big weekend for you.
Big weekend on the beer.
So thanks very much for that, and cheers to everybody for listening or watching, however you're enjoying the show. Thanks very much as well to Paul and Chris, who are kind of putting everything together in the background. And big thanks to our sponsors as well. Bank of Ireland, proud supporters of the 4 Irish provinces. Greg and Lindsay are going to be back next week, and they're going to bring us all those big Grand Slam stories that we didn't get. So we'll get that next week. So thanks everybody, and thanks for watching. Cheers.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.